Okay, so we are recording and it is 1:30. So, oh, good, Georgia just is making it on in the nick of time. Yay. I think she's still working her way on, and she doesn't have her video on yet, but hopefully Georgia will be here in just a moment. I know Amanda will not be with us today.
Oh.
And the other Donna will be joining us later, but she will be coming here. So just want to welcome everyone back and thank you guys for devoting your beautiful afternoon, or at least a couple hours of it, to coming back and playing with us today, because yeah, I think we'd all probably like to be outside, but we are here. We're going to have fun. And then when we get done, for those of you who want to, we can all go outside and go run around in our gardens or whatever you guys like to do in the outside. So, okay. Hey, Georgia, good to see you. Glad you made it. Does anyone have anything for me to tell me before I fade into the background and turn you over to Terry Lynn? Did anyone have any issues, technical or anything or otherwise, with the recording? If anyone watched it last time?
I did. I watched it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It was really good.
It was excellent. You know, I used to keep them up on Zoom. Gives you a tiny little bit of space to keep them up there. So I used to have to take them down after like 48 hours because I'd be recording other things. But then I started putting them up on my Zoom account, or my YouTube account, so that you guys don't have to worry about rushing in to go watch them and stuff. So I'm glad that you're finding them helpful. All right.
Yeah, I tried to look at it last night and it said it wasn't available. I don't know if there were a gazillion people on it.
It wasn't available for you? Huh.
Well, it wasn't last night, but
can you try it? Would you
no, it must have been Sunday night. I don't remember. I looked one night and I couldn't find it, but then when I went back later, I found it. So
okay, well, honey, if you can't, if you don't mind, sometime this week, maybe giving it another try and letting me know if you're still having issues, because I want you to be able to access it. I mean, it makes me feel good that Donna and Gay were able to, so it seems like it's there and it's working, but I want you to be able to too. So if we need to do some sort of a Zooming thing to get it working, I'm happy to do that too.
okay.
All right, Miss Terry Lynn, are you ready to take it away?
Pretty much, yeah. If you
Okay, I'm going to spotlight you then. There you are, my friend.
There I am. Yeah.
And I'm going to go fade away, but I'm right here.
Okay, don't fade too far. Welcome back. I hope some people sent me some things and stuff. I was hoping that maybe we could get on Padlet. You don't have to. If I can take 5 minutes to try to show that to you now, okay? Because let me just screen share really quick. It's this, and see, like Donna sent me something, and Amanda put down her kitties, and then we can come here all together and kind of view this and show the paintings. I also, over to the far side, have information that you can download, like some of the PDFs, and there's a link to a video and things like that. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes to try this out, open your chat. Do you all know where your chat is? It's down at the bottom.
In some places, mine's at the top.
Yeah, sorry, yes. Open your chat. I should just leave it at that. See the link in there? Try clicking on that link and see if it goes to the page that I just sent you to. And you can unmute so I can hear some reactions back on this. Are you going to that page? Does it take you?
That looked like.
Yes.
I can't.
Did everyone get to it? I'm going to share mine again really quickly. So this is kind of what it looks like. Down at the bottom of it, see if I can get it to move down for me. There should be a spot on it. I probably don't have really strong internet connection. My friend upstairs is, she works online. But you can either from your desktop click and just drag a picture over here, don't worry about putting it under your column. I can move it after. Or there's also a red circle with a plus sign on it. You click on that and that can bring it up. Or you can just click on the background and it will ask for you to
Download,
upload to it.
upload, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I am sorry. Are you on the page that looks like what I'm on? Or can you not get there? You're afraid of you losing
Oh,
the.
I
The
mean, I
loop.
was there last night, so now click here.
Okay, if you can get there, that's what I was kind of thinking. So maybe today or this weekend, you can put a couple pictures on there. I'll come and check them. If you do upload, and let me see if I can find a spot. Yes, see, Donna did it here. She didn't upload it. She sent it to me, another method. So I uploaded it. That's why it's my name. I put her name on and then a title and then the pictures in there. So there's Donna, those are so nice. Lovely little sketches that she's going to work with today. And then as we go through paintings, this way I can get closer, because while you folks are painting and you try to hold a painting up in front of the camera here for me, it gets very difficult for me to really see what's going on. So if you would play with that, that would be nice. Don't feel like you're going to, I don't want you to become stressed out about it for sure, okay? So, but it is a nice little tool if we can use that. I think I sent you some instructions. If those were a little overwhelming, I have simplified them, but I think just by seeing what I just did, it might help you. Any quick little questions before we get to painting? Yeah, and you pretty much, you can stay unmuted as long as you're kind of quiet. If you get a dog barking in the background or something, that would be nice to mute.
Can
All
you
right.
send the paddle link to us later, or Pam, because once we
Yes.
get off this, we won't have access to chat.
Yes.
It's actually, Colleen, the link is in, if you got that, the email I sent yesterday and the one I sent last week, it's in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But we'll keep putting it in so you can find it. People were talking about brushes last week, and I told you I have not been able to find, this is one of my favorite brushes. So I did go to Amazon, as Pam had linked in the supplies list, and I bought these 3 brushes. They come together, they're under $7. I haven't tried them yet, so you guys are my guinea pigs. I'm gonna try these out today. They look good. Someone had already purchased them, hadn't they? Yes, okay, you guys had, good. So I'm gonna try those. All right. Again, small class, if you want to unmute, that's fine with me. Then I know you're here. The sun's coming right in my window right now, so I'm half blinded over here by things going on. All right, does everyone have a sketch? Did you practice your sketches with your basic shapes that we talked about?
No,
No, no time, right?
I did not do my homework, sorry.
Me either. I've always been bad at homework.
Well, you know
I
what?
have my sketches from yesterday or from last week.
Okay, then I think, and it's never gonna hurt to do more sketches. Let's do it again, okay? We'll just get our sketches out. Fresh piece of paper, and remember, you have a nice pencil. Basically, we were using circles. We didn't actually have many squares, maybe a little rectangle and some triangles. So just trying to keep that as simple as you can.
Are we
Yep.
putting watercolor paper?
Not right now, just sketch paper. Is that okay? So we're gonna
Yes.
get warmed up. We're gonna warm up our hands. Do you have the little photo here? Wish I could put this somewhere where you can see it, but you can't really.
By the way, I love the honesty of you students.
I do too.
And you know, homework was not a requirement for this class. So, you know, don't be feeling bad if you did not.
This is for your own pleasure, basically, is why you're doing this. Yes, getting some information, getting some experience, but I'm just gonna use the back side of my paper, unless that shows through. It does show through a little bit. Maybe that's distracting. All right, fresh piece of paper.
Kristen,
Yes.
I
Who's
did
speaking, please?
try to practice, but my cats don't look like cats. They look like evil something.
I only see one. Maybe it's the size of the ears and stuff, trying to figure out the size of the ears and things like that. Okay, so let's try again.
I just
I
thought,
don't think-
but
If
I
you
just
do
thought-
speak, please say this is, Terry Lynn, and then ask a question, because I don't see everybody right now because I've got the
Oh, sorry.
spotlight. Are we on
This is-
spotlight, Pam? Because
no,
No, you were. Right now, I had Linda on it, but I'm going
All
to
right.
take her off
because
because
she was
I wanted to
speaking.
see her.
Thank you. Nope, that's fine. Other question?
yeah, this is Colleen and I
Hi.
have a statement. I have a statement.
A statement.
My dog ate my homework.
Is that true?
Good.
What?
Is
She's
it
being
true,
funny 'cause
Colleen?
We're
That
painting
was
our pet.
Colleen. I'm just being funny because we're drawing dogs and cats.
Okay, well, I mean, it's possible.
I know,
It is possible. All
but I
right.
was the first one to admit I didn't do my homework.
All right, this is just loosening up. Good thing to do. It's like if you're going to go do an activity, you want to do some stretches and exercises. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to start with a little dog. Notice his head is not half his body. It's a little less, but it's not even a third. It's somewhere between a half and a third. If you measure from the top of his head to his feet, you can see that it's between a third and a half, right? So just rough estimation. So we start with a circle.
You can have it. I'm doing it.
Top of his head, kind of here. You can watch me really quickly and then you can try it. And then I'm going to circle a little bigger circle for this section of his body. Can you see that okay? It's not really a circle, but I'm kind of fitting it in there. And then his little paws are going to come out. They don't come out just off the bottom. They come out from up inside the circle. So those are kind of little rectangles. And there's a little space in between them. And these don't have to be perfect at this point. Then he's got a little back side and his little back leg, which is just kind of folded under there. No big deal.
What you're drawing is so very light. I don't know if I'm the only one that can't see
Yeah,
it, but
I'm sorry. Let me do it darker. Did you do it lightly? Because if you're going to do a watercolor over it, go ahead and keep it light, but you're right. Is that better? Can you see that a little better? Yes.
yes, much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay, and then we're going to remember that tilty little angle of his head. So if this is straight up and down, it's not 90 degrees, it's about 45 degrees. So I'm going to kind of just draw a little angle there. And from that, I'm going to figure out about where his eyes are. And this is just, I'm measuring right now. I am not really drawing. And all of this can be erased or covered over with paint, whatever you want. And we can see his head is not really a circle. It's kind of oblong shaped. And then thinking about his ears. And remember too, I said about angles. See how, does that work? The top part of the ear kind of comes off at that angle. The sun is really, then the floppy part of his ear goes out at that angle. Then it kind of comes in. So we don't have to draw all of these perfectly. You just think, what if I put a line there? If I put a line there, a little line there, goes straight down. Don't think ear, just think basic shapes and lines. Basic shapes and lines. You can kind of blend his body together from his head comes down. And when we get this onto watercolor paper, it's going to be very loose because we are just using these as guidelines. We're not going to get stuck in the details. The only details we're really going to be concerned about are the eyes and maybe the nose and kind of the mouth, but mostly the eyes and the hint of the nose. So figure about how far his eyes are apart. How big are they in relationship to his whole head? And do a nice guesstimate of a drawing of his eyes in there. Two little circles. His little nose. I'm starting with a circle, but it actually becomes a little bit of a blend of a circle and a triangle. You look at the photo too, eventually the hair is going to come down over his eyes, so we're not going to be too detailed in that.
You know, in looking at, this is Colleen, in looking at his little face, even last week, I saw that the head was more octagonal. But then if you look at his muzzle, that's another little circle. Wouldn't you
This
say?
right here, it's kind of an oval right here. Yep.
Yeah, above his nose and under the hairline of his chinny chin chin.
Right. It kind of, yes, it kind of goes from
Yeah.
just under his eyes down under that way. And then you could even make smaller circles for the fuzzy areas. There's a lot of things, as long as you're starting to see shapes within shapes, and it's just going to help you draw and figure out what's going on. We're not even working three-dimensionally here. We're just keeping it kind of very flat and two-dimensional. So this is basically all you kind of need. You can do the same little angle thing with his feet, his paws, his feet. We're always personifying our dogs, aren't we? There's my old language teacher skills coming out. Personification. So, something simple like that. How are we doing? Just take your time. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I mean, most of his body is covered with all this fur, so that's what makes it wonderful. That's why this brush, when we get to painting him, it's going to be so much fun with this. Keep drawing. Is there anyone who did not get to practice some of the different watercolor brush strokes that I had mentioned last week? Yes, good. I'm not
No,
hearing.
Linda and Nancy raised their hands. They were honest. So and you know, again, homework was not required. So I don't want anyone feeling guilty if you did
Thank you,
not.
Kim. This is, and I'm the
for
same
fun.
way. These are my suggestions, homework suggestions, but you don't have to.
Yes.
One thing I'm having, this is Colleen, one thing I'm having trouble with is how far beneath the circle that represents his body do the feet come? Now, looking at the real photograph,
You can't tell.
no, there's hair in there, but assuming that it's the end of your circle.
Yeah,
And I guess that's
this
it.
paw actually comes from up into his chest, right?
Right.
Kind of up into that area. So you can think about that, but we're not, once we get painting this, we're not that concerned. We'll kind of differentiate between the fur that's coming off his chest and that's behind on his belly. And the only thing we'll do is just make that a little darker underneath because it's in shadow.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to see how we're doing when you get a chance.
Now I can go around and spotlight folks. So who's ready to show something? Ms. Donna, looks like you've got your thing up. Okay, so I'm gonna, there's Ms. Donna. Oh, I think you need to pull it back just a little bit, honey. It's right. Why is that? There we go. There you go. There you go.
Cute. I
Oh,
think that's
Very
wonderful. Very nice, nice and simple. All you need. Very nice, Donna.
Wonderful.
I like it.
Okay. I think Colleen was fighting her way in there next. We'll go to
Yeah.
Colleen.
Cute.
I feel okay about his head, but his feet, his legs still bother me.
But that's just gonna be down first. So we're just kind of locating where they are right now.
Okay.
But good
Okay,
thinking.
I'm gonna grab it.
Gay
Ms.
is up.
Gay.
Oh, nice.
Look at that.
Even look, we're all
Oh, yeah.
doing exactly the same thing, but each person's is slightly different and a little different personality. It's exciting. Georgia, I saw you start to put one up.
There we go.
Yep. Can you back
Look
on
at that.
up just a little bit? Oh, look at that. He's very
So
sad.
cute.
It's funny because his fur goes down, makes him look sad, doesn't it? Very nice. Anyone else?
I think just Linda and Nancy. Do you guys have something to show us?
Oh, good. He's a chunker. His feet are a little small in comparison with his head. Just a little bit bigger.
But he doesn't look angry or mean.
No, no, he looks
Do you
adorable.
have something you want to show us?
No,
Okay.
I'm on the fourth one now and none of them are even close to looking like a dog. They
Well,
look like a snowman with the ears.
do you want Terry Lynn to see if she can guide you on anything?
No,
Or you
I'm just
want to figure it out yourself?
yourself.
All right.
Pam, one thing I used this weekend was breakout rooms, and the instructor, I was facilitating, so the instructor took the person into it. Have you done breakout rooms yet?
I have not,
Yeah.
and I have talked about it to students, and most people that I've spoken with prefer, since they're small classes, to just see everybody's work.
Yeah, it really is
Um,
nice, but there are, and I'm not referring to what just happened, but it's just made me think that some people do, especially if they're working for an hour or so on a piece and they want to step off privately with the instructor, and that works.
Absolutely, that would, yeah, absolutely. I
But
can
before this
understand the use
weekend, I
of
had
that.
no idea how to do it, so now I do.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I haven't done them yet, so, but maybe one day.
Let's play around with the
Okay.
kitty now. We're still warming up, so let's do a quick play with the kitty. Okay, his head is smaller in comparison with his body. And what I'm seeing is, I'm going to start with a smaller circle up here, not too small, maybe about twice the size here and about 3 or 4 times the size for his body. So I'm just right now kind of laying in. I got to do it darker. I need to remember that. And this circle, see how that's a little off center from the other one. So bring it out a little bit.
Oh, I gotta go out and get him.
Just play with it. And it's more of an oval than a circle for his body here. That should be a little bigger. Then I'm kind of looking, if you look up quickly, I see kind of a line this way that's connecting those two from his head down to his chest. This line that goes down around his chest, this down to his leg. Notice how his legs are going to fade off. Kind of straight there. Watch this nice little curve that heads out toward his back, and then just down the side. So I'm going to kind of add those in.
And I think you're gonna probably, yeah, now you're getting a little darker. That's good. Okay, because your first circles are pretty light.
And that is such a habit of mine, to keep the first circles light. Thank you. That little curve there over his hump and down his back. And I'm just going to let that kind of fade off. We might eventually put a tail in there or something. Who knows? All right. And then again, this is almost all in shadow. Isn't that nice? I try to choose something that there's a lot of shadow. You don't have to worry about details. In his head, that little bit of an angle. Love that. It's always a little quizzical attitude that they have. Top of his head, measure down kind of to his chin. You can't really see it, but you can imagine that it's kind of right there, that little chin. And then this part of his face is almost like a triangle between just above his eyes and down to that chin. Locate the eyes in the head from the top to the bottom. They're about halfway. I'm going to start, that's about halfway. And remember, these horizontal lines have to be perpendicular to the tilted line. So don't try to straighten it out here. Keep that nice tilt to the head in all of his features. And his nose. His eyes a little further apart, kind of ovals. You're getting the idea now. Nose, I can't see it all, but I'm going to indicate that it's a little bit of a triangle down to there. And that's his chin. Can't even see his mouth. His mouth would be right about there, but we can't even see that. And if you're doing your pet, of course, you're going to know your pet and you're going to understand their feet because you've looked at them all the time. You know how they love to stare into your face when they're hungry and stuff. The ears are little triangles, but they're slightly different angles. How big are they compared to whatever else? So try to imagine like this, from where it comes off the head to the tip of that ear. Trying to find something to measure it to. 1, 2, 3. It's about a little over a third the size of the head. So I'm going to give it about that amount of length. This is the angle that's going out. This is the angle that's coming back to the head. And then it kind of squares off at the top there. Same with the other ear. Apologize, I'm trying to get the pictures of these pictures in there at the same time. And keep my supplies on my table. Angle of that. That one's almost up and down, almost straight up and down, but not quite. There. So that's more or less what you would be wanting. And those simple sketches are going to give us enough information for our painting.
I'm ready to spotlight if anyone wants to show their kitty cat.
I ended up with something looking like a jack-o'-lantern.
Okay. I don't think it looks like a jack-o'-lantern.
I think that his neck chest area is just a little long. If you bring his
Okay.
legs down off a little bit earlier and make his eyes a little bigger in his head, then
Okay.
he's got quite a personality. I love it.
Actually, George, you know what it looks like? He looks a little like the expression of the Joker. You know, the Batman's Joker. Doesn't he look at just his face, not the rest of him. Okay, Ms. Gay. Oh, can you pull it back just a tiny bit, honey? There we go.
Yeah, nice. His head's a little bit small for his body, but not bad. Very good.
And I didn't get the tilt in there either.
Isn't
But
it?
see, even by not getting what you were hoping to aim for, we're still learning, and we can, like, next time you do it, okay, got to remember the tilt. Got it. Very good.
I just the personalities captured between, whether it was intentional or not, between George's and Gay's, how different, right?
Exactly, as I was
Very
saying.
interesting.
We can all try to draw exactly the same thing, but our personality comes through. And sometimes there's also the aspect of the painting or the drawing just takes on part of its own personality too. And
Yeah.
you're like, how did I do that? I don't know, but it just came through. So
Anybody else want to be? Okay, Miss Donna. Okay. Oh, very
oh,
sweet.
cute. Yep. And again, his chest got a little big for his head, but nice.
That's a
He's
sophisticated.
looking
kitty.
very regal. He's very
Yes, very regal and sophisticated. Anybody else before we move on?
And of course, as you're drawing, I mean, all the different breeds are going to look slightly different. So you're going to want to think in the basic shapes and how they compare in size. You know, start with the head. If I take the head as my measuring unit, how many heads is the chest, right? Maybe a head and a half, or maybe 2 heads, depending on what it is. So you're just roughly guesstimating. How big is the body? How tall is the body in comparison to the height of the head? How wide is it? And just by going on those very simple, again, ratios, you can really get into what we're heading for. How are you feeling? Warmed up? What time are we? Yeah. We need to get painting. Anyone else have a thing they want to share? Good. All right. My table's too small, but I need to keep it so you can see things. Now we have our paints. We're going to have paper. I've put my paper down here. Again, I've taped it. I don't usually tape it to the table, but the thing I usually tape it to is very reflective and the lights just bounce off from it. So I've put it down here. These are just smaller pieces of paper. They are probably by 6 by 8, not very big.
Good girl.
So you have your paper ready to go. You have your paints, which hopefully you dampened right before we started class. Remember how we put a little bit of water on them so they're soft and ready to use?
And if they forgot, Terry, did anyone
If
forget?
you forgot, do it right now. You can even take your spray bottle if you want and just quickly spray on there so they're going to be ready to use. Now, obviously with these animals, we're going to stay over in these natural tones. We don't have any bright colored animals. We're not really worried about the background right now, but eventually you might want to add, you know, green for grass behind or different things like that. Here, Pupper.
That of course assumes we want to create realistic animals.
Right.
We might want a purple cat.
It's, oh yeah. Do you want a purple cat?
Well, maybe at some
Brush
time.
your back.
I don't
Like
know.
this little sketch was fun because I didn't do hardly anything to the dog except his face, a little bit of shadowing here. And then I just brought in the grass around him to indicate his fur. I didn't draw all this fur. It's just I took my brush and I put paint out here and then I just kind of pushed it down into where the fur would be. So hopefully we'll get to something like that too. So that's what I mean by color too. This cat, this was kind of fun too. Was this your cat, I think, Pam? I think I started with your cat.
I
Doesn't
think
look-
that was supposed to be.
Well, it didn't really look like him, but I just started off with it. Let's see, you add a little green in the eyes, but you can see in here, I think you can see,
Yeah, you can see a little bit.
there's some purple and blue. And so sometimes it's fun to add in some subtle colors.
Yes.
All right. You stay back there. All right. 2 waters. The way I work them is the one on the right is my cleaning water to clean my brush. The one here is my fresh water. I have my spray bottles of water, the tiny mister bottle. You don't have to have all these. I'm just telling you what I have. And then for fun, sometimes in texture, I'll use some alcohol in a spray bottle and I label it so I know which bottle I'm working with. I also, let you know, often have a piece of scrap paper off to the side. So if I want to try a brush stroke or a color before I start painting, I can try it there instead of what some people say, messing up my painting. I mean, we're not too worried about that today, but it just gives you a chance to try out the color or the stroke before you actually put it onto your painting. Is everyone feeling pretty much set up? Anyone I need
Well,
to wait?
Since we didn't draw on our art paper and we drew on the scrap paper, well, anyway,
Yes,
I'll
we're going to draw on this now. You warmed up in your sketch paper. Now we're going to draw your what you just did on your watercolor paper. So, and I'm doing cats and dogs because some people have cats and some people have dogs, but it's kind of fun to try the different things. Hey, that works a little better. All right, so this is a little smaller. I want to think, I'm already in my mind kind of measuring his head to his body. The head will probably take up about that much, body about that much. Don't have to be too detailed about it. For you, I would keep it fairly light, but enough so you can see the lines. So I'm going to start with a circle of his head. And see, we already practiced this, which is nice. His chest area is a little bigger, a little more rectangular to the side, down to his belly. I'm doing it lightly and then I press down after I have some idea. So it's like shapes, circles on circles on circles. His little feet come down. And I make adjustments. This is a good time to make adjustments if you need to. Checking his foot is too small compared to his head, so I'm going to make mine a little bigger right now. That's a little better.
you can't really use both sides of watercolor paper, can you?
Yes, you can.
Really, the other side of my watercolor paper seems really smooth.
It depends on the brand, and there are some. Some have more of a texture on one side and smoother on the other, and some are pretty much the same on both sides.
So if it's kind of smooth on the other, is it okay to use it?
You can use either side, yes. The
Okay.
side with the more texture is going to kind of help us with our fur and stuff, but you're welcome to use both. I went through paintings. Okay. I reuse paper a lot. This is from my Whatman paper here. And look, it was on the back of an old a demo of a sunrise or sunset. So yeah, you can use both sides. It's a nice thing about watercolor paper. Can't do that with pastel. Can't do that with canvas. All right, so go ahead. Do you want me to walk it through again? But go ahead and get down your basic shapes of your sketches. for the little dog. Think shapes, think sizes. Get that nice little tilt to the head, maybe push it even further. Placement of the eyes, more or less. Little nose, kind of triangular in there, flat on the top. Indicate where his mouth would be. It's going to be just fur all around that. Looks kind of freaky right now, doesn't he? He's just, ooh, big eyes sitting there. Little flattened head. The angle of those ears as they pop off his head. And then the hair just kind of falls down in that direction. This one's a little more subtle because it's on the other side of his head. You don't see it as much, but it's still fun. It's got some wispies out there.
Terry Lynn, do you always draw something before you put down paint, watercolor paint, when you're watercoloring?
Good question. Even if it's a loose landscape, I often will just put a couple of lines to remember where I want the trees or the angle of the land, but sometimes not much at all.
Okay.
But that is because I've been drawing for decades, right?
Yeah.
So I do a lot of the work in my head, and the more we practice, the more we draw, the more we paint, the easier that becomes, doing more and more in our head. Good
Gotcha.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you also say, this is Colleen, wouldn't you also say that in drawing a landscape, if you put a tree in the wrong place, it doesn't matter, but if you put the paw in the wrong place, it matters.
Right. When you start to do portraits, you know, it's just a huge difference. That's true. Oops, I wanted to indicate I'd kind of forgotten about that muzzle. And Colleen reminded of us that to us earlier. Just so I'm kind of thinking. He looks pretty cute. Kind of take a look back. Are the proportions about right? I want his little fur to come out a little more. Now, what some artists do will be paint it detailed perfectly, every little hair. It's not necessary. When you indicate hair or something and finish maybe just a couple spots of detail, the viewer's subconscious will finish the painting in their head. And that involves your viewer. That helps them to get drawn into the painting and become part of the experience of enjoying it. If you finish it totally, in my opinion, I mean, this is kind of my opinion. Remember last week I said, I say things, but everything's flexible, the rules are breakable, right? You make the rules so you can break the rules. But it's true, oftentimes that helps the viewer to become more involved in the painting if it's not totally spelled out for them. My idea is if you want something totally spelled out, take a photograph, you know? Yes, Colleen.
I have a question. All right, so in drawing the part of his body that sticks out to the right, did you draw another circle to do that first part
It's
of
kind
his
of an
body?
oval. It's more, I mean, I started kind of circle, but it's more of an oval.
Okay,
And all we're going to be concerned about is that from his back down where his belly goes, kind of.
okay. And then another little bump out for that back.
That's his back leg that's kind of sticking out there.
Yeah.
And then that's sitting on the ground. So it's going to be a little flatter as it's kind of sitting on the ground. Let's do the cat while we're right here too, and then we can just paint our little hearts out. How's that? I'm sorry, do you have two pieces? I mean, I split my paper in two. Maybe you didn't do that, and that's fine.
So,
This is
Okay.
Gay.
Yes.
I thought we were actually just doing our own pets. We're not doing our own pets at this point?
I wanted to practice these first before we get into
Okay.
ours. I apologize if I was not clear on that. This way I can kind of walk you through it step by step. And then you can go and we will work on yours as we go.
Okay.
Did you do a sketch of yours?
I did.
Okay, no, that's fine. Stick with it. Stick with it. Stick with
Well, I
it.
can go get some more paper and another piece. some more paper and do the. I mean, I can. Okay, I'll just. Okay.
Gay, do you want to show us your drawing that you did, and we'll see, and maybe Terry Lynn can make sure it's gonna work fine?
Can you see it? It's pretty light.
It is. Yeah, I can see it. And see right now, I don't know what the photo looks like. His eyes look a little small to the rest of his face, and the bottom of his muzzle. Is he a lab?
He's border collie.
Border collie. Okay. It just, and is it an exaggerated photo? Because it looks like his muzzle's coming really at you, and it's a lot bigger than like his face setting back.
Yeah, it does. His muzzle is coming right out at you.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. You've taken a really strong foreshortened picture to work on this, and he is. I still would make the eyes just a little bit bigger, and maybe
Okay.
under his muzzle area, his chin area, a
Okay.
little smaller. Very nice. Good
Okay.
job. All right, I'm gonna put a kitty in here too.
I just wanted to check in, because Nancy, you were struggling a little bit. Are you doing okay? Oh, you're muted, honey. Linda, Nancy, you're muted.
Okay, I'm actually gonna step out because I'm just not feeling it today.
Okay,
Watch it later. and see
okay.
what happens.
All right, Nancy.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
It is tricky sometimes, and I mean, there are days where I'm just like, nope, it's not working for me today. And because I'm a professional artist, I have to force myself to go ahead and do it anyway. But for most people, it's the enjoyment, their own enjoyment. And there's no reason to force yourself.
That's why we keep coloring books in the studio, because sometimes you're just not feeling it.
Or the puzzles. Do you still do the
Or,
puzzles?
yeah, we still have the puzzles.
My trick was I'd get caught up in those puzzles, and I'm like, I should be over there painting.
Inspiration can't be forced, I think.
No, that's true.
You know, I also find that I don't currently have a cat and haven't had one for about 20 years. So it's hard for me to draw the cat because I'm not that familiar with cat body structure at the moment.
Yeah. And it's true. It's good to paint and draw things that you know well. But it's also good to challenge ourselves too. You know me, I try to look at all the different aspects. I'm not one of those like, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. But I totally get you on that one, Colleen. It's like, oh yeah, cats, dogs, what do I do? And breeds. Dog breeds are also different.
And so many of them are mixed.
Nowadays, yes. Like
That was kind of like Amanda last week. She was very comfortable drawing the cats. Well, she does have dogs too, but she wasn't as comfortable drawing her dogs.
Yep. Yep.
See, my dog looks like a balloon. I mean, I'm feeling really bad right now about my ability to do this, but I'm gonna hold
Just
on.
push through. Just look at this one today as more practice. We're just learning, we're practicing. I mean, if you're learning your alphabet and stuff, you can't make a beautiful poem the first few times. We need to work through these learning processes and experimenting and playing around.
So this is Georgia, and I just realized that my little travel set does not have any black in it.
Perfect.
But okay.
You don't need black.
I mean, I do have other watercolors, like I have some tubes that have black.
If you have a place to put them on your palette, fine. The other thing is if you take a burnt umber, which is your darkest brown, and your ultramarine blue, which is this dark blue, and you mix those together, you get a beautiful grade black. They are almost complements, and it can create this wonderful, nice, dark without being black. Actually makes it a little more visually interesting if there's color in it and not just flat black. I have started flat black here because it's simpler for beginning.
Terry Lynn, don't you often even say that if you don't have black, don't worry about it, or don't?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't use black a lot, straight black, yeah.
I rarely use straight black. Black alone tends to flatten it out. If you look at my kitty picture, the one I did earlier, I've even added some blue in here just to make it a little more interesting. There's probably some blue down in here or something, because as the fur is shining and the light bounces off from it, blue is the color that tends to reflect the most off from that. So
Could you put the kitty photo back? Not that one, the real photo back. Yeah, thank you.
as you're finishing that up, remember, I haven't finished this guy yet. Old spooky eyes, like. I'm wondering about these brushes. I'm hoping they're gonna work well. Need to wet this one a little more.
I don't know. They say you get what you pay for, so we'll see.
Exactly, right? So I'm gonna try, wow, that is really wet. I don't want it that wet. See, now this is about the time, and I'm just waiting for you to finish your drawing, but I'm just gonna drop some yellow in there for his eyes. And I'm gonna let it dry because I can't put his pupils in until that's totally dry. If I put that in now, remember last week we did the wet on wet? Do it, yeah, I can see. So if this is a close-up of that eye, and then I take some black for his pupil and I try to drop it in there, you can see it's starting already to spread. That's not too bad, actually. But if I was doing it in a small detail like I was doing on that eye, that would really make a difference. If I wait until it's totally dry like this yellow and drop some black in there, I get a nice crisp line. See how this one's fuzzy? So in watercolor, it's all dependent on the timing. Do you want a fuzzy line if we're making fur? Yes. Or if we want the pupil to be crisp and clear, we want it to be dry. It's a lot of things to, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of variety in it. You almost ready to paint?
Why don't we how about you give us a thumbs up if you're ready to paint? Okay, I see Donna and Georgia.
Here's a dog.
Colleen's good. Okay, Gay walked away for a moment. Miss Linda looks like she's still drawing. You got a drawing? Oh, she's raising. You raised your hand. I don't know if that's a hand or a thumb.
You're great, Pam. This was what I was telling when I was at that other teachers meeting, the artists, like it really helps to have a facilitator when you're teaching. You got so much else you're thinking, and then trying to run the audio visual and field all the questions and check people's hands and what's going on. It takes two people.
It's definitely certainly easier if you have
Yes.
a second person, that's for sure.
I do have a couple of
Are
friends.
you ready with your drawing, honey? Oh, yeah. Gay is not muted. Oh, Gay,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. What?
That's okay. Are you?
What? Who?
Yeah. Do you have a drawing to work? Are you ready to start painting?
Yeah, I can do
Okay.
that.
Okay. And Linda, did you have was it a thumb? Are you ready, Linda, to start painting? Oh, you're on mute again. Let's see. Let's get you off mute. There you
I'm
go.
okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
As ready as you'll ever be.
Right.
Can you tell me, this is Colleen, can you tell me how many paws are showing on the kitty cat?
None.
The front paw must be.
It's cut off in the photo, so I have to picture it in my head where the paw goes.
All right, well, picturing in your head is
But
just.
if you look at this one, Colleen, I just kind of let the bottom part of his body just kind of fade out. And
Yeah,
I would probably frame it so you wouldn't even see that, but.
He's
well,
an
there's a little bit
amputee.
of light showing on that kitty's paw. So what I'm trying to figure out is there a circle where his hip and back leg would be would be,
It
even
would
though,
come down here and probably right about here would be his paw.
and is that right or left paw?
His
Left.
right one
Where's,
to our left.
huh, all
But
right.
it's hard to see. It's hard to know exactly without the photo. And
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it for like the balance or the size of the blob of black.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just going to kind of bloob it out.
Okay, all right.
All right. I'm going to start on the dog just because he's kind of fun. And the other thing is nice having more than one painting at a time in watercolor, because as we start working on this dog, there's going to be a point where we want to leave him alone and let him dry a bit. So then we can go over to the cat, work on the big wash, luscious areas of that cat, then let that dry for a bit, go back and start working a little more detail on the dog. I don't know why I'm getting shadows. Sorry. Now, thinking ahead, I'm going to get my brush. I'm going to try this new brush. I also have my fur creating brush here. This is kind of fun. Looks awful. Perfect for fur. I'm going to grab a couple of little paper towels just to have on hand in case my paints get away from me. I can always just lightly blot and control them. Spray bottles, everything's kind of right here. I am going to have to move these photos though. Yes.
I just had a slight accident and spilled some chai tea onto my paint palette. Should I just rinse them off in the sink?
I would grab some paper towel, dop it up. It's not going to
Okay.
hurt the paint. Well, wait, unless it's got a lot of sugar and cream in it.
Oh, yeah.
At least it was just tea, Georgia. Could have been like
No,
hot
it was-
chocolate.
It was chai tea with, yeah, so sugar, cream, milk,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
While you're
Good stuff.
cleaning up, this is something I haven't mentioned, I don't think, with this. I think I hinted at it at one point. If you're drinking something, this has happened so many times. You're painting along and you really focus on that and you dip your brush right into whatever you're drinking, you know. I have learned to, if I'm right-handed, everything's kind of to my right, and I take my drink and I'll put it off to the left so I don't get them mixed up. Or in this case, I've got it over on my table beside me.
and
I can't tell you how many times I've dipped my brush into coffee.
And just on the opposite, my dad owned an art store, and one of the art teachers took a big drink out of his water, the water.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you've been dipping your brush in there and you happen to have cadmiums or cobalt paint in there, those
Ew.
are heavy metals, that's not good.
Yeah,
don't
and when
want
he
to
drank it,
invest
he
in
had been using thiocyanon blue and actually got or thiocyanon green and actually got a bad reaction.
Yeah. It's a good idea to put your drinks off to the side. And also they don't spill into your palette. So there you go.
I just want to double check as we move on. Does everyone have all those materials that Terry Lynn was just mentioning, or do we have to wait for you to gather anything? You guys all good?
I gotta get some
Yeah.
paper towels.
Should we get a potty break before we start this procedure?
That sounds good to me. Everyone with a little quick stretch break. That's good to get our blood going. We'll be ready. If not, if you don't have to potty, just stand up, stretch around a little bit. I'll take a little break too. I'll be right back. Remember to
Pam-
mute if you're going to go potty.
Pam, I have a big favor to ask of you.
Yes.
I cannot find my cell phone, and I had it 5 minutes before class, and I laid it down, and I've looked all over the house. Will you
Yes.
call me if I can hear my phone?
I will be more than happy to do that.
Okay, do you not need my number?
Let me see if I may have you in here. I have you. I have it on the sheet. Nope, I got it
Good.
right here.
Let it keep ringing until I answer, because I'm upstairs, and so somewhere between upstairs and downstairs, and I have looked everywhere.
Okay, I'm about ready to do it. Here we go.
I'm panicking over it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm resuming the.
All right. Let me explain what I am going to do, and I'll kind of walk through it, and then you can kind of play around with it. I'm looking at this little guy, and I saw some warm spots on him. His muzzle kind of is going to be lighter toward the top. So I don't want to put a lot of paint where there's lighter areas. I'm going to start in watercolor. You work from light to dark. So I have to retain and leave alone those lighter areas. I didn't put anything around him here, but you can see how this area is lighter than the shadowed areas down here. And there's no huge amount of definition here. So on the small one, I'm going to get, this is yellow ochre, that mustardy color paint right there, will go nicely for that softer brownish fur. And I'm going to get it quite wet. I'm going to lay it in. As you can see here, it's very blended. There's not a lot of detail there. And that's the first layer that we're going to start with, just some soft, light detail. As we get it in there, then we can pick up our rough brush and just kind of drag it and make some of these nice little hairs that are pulling out. We'll wait for that to basically dry. When we come back the second time, we'll add darker and drag it across again. And that will give some of our more indications of hair and fur there. Then when it's totally dry is when we come in to add the finishing details. For a long time, you're not going to get the eyes. It's such a, we want to finish the interesting things first. We want to finish the details of the eyes and the nose and the mouth, but that's actually the last thing that we're going to do. So let me do a quick demo if you guys can kind of watch, and I'll kind of walk you through it again as you go along. Can you see my, yeah, okay. See how I keep my paper towels nearby? And they're all scrunched up because I don't want it to be flat textures. I want it to be, oh my gosh, there are so many different types of paper towels and they all have slightly different textures. And for some things in watercolor, you want even softer, something like Kleenex or bathroom tissue or something. Is that what we call it? Toilet paper, you know what I mean? Because they're softer and they will create, as you blotting, it could create different types of textures. So that's just my 2 cents on paper towels. All right, I'm getting this wet. I'm thinking I am going to pull in my paints here so you can see my little mixing tray. Lay that flat. I don't go right from here to my painting because I don't know how much paint is actually in that brush. By putting it and just gently mixing it on my palette, I can get some idea about how much it is. See how I'm letting that other paint that was there before mix into that? Then it's not the pure out of the tube color. I say out of the tube or out of the little palette thing here. And I want a good amount because I've got it going around. Now, this is my instinct for this one. Nope, I'm not going to do that because that might distract you. Let me think, I'm thinking. I'm tempted to do a little spray on him to let him blend out, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to go into those fuzzy areas. Now I want to think, can you see my brush okay? I'm going to go in the direction that his hair is drawing. See how I'm just, his hair's coming out this way around his face, and you can see the water sitting there. Going out to the ear, I'm generally following that outline that I drew. See how it's heavy up there? I'm going to come back into that rather quickly. A little of this fur, a little more paint. If your paint starts to get light, just go to your palette, pick up a little bit more. A little bit on his chin, down on his little paws. A little bit back here, maybe where it's catching the light on that haunch. And now I'm gonna, oh, see, I just used the wrong water for cleaning my brush. That's not working too badly right now. I'm gonna just, I've cleaned off my brush. I'm gonna pick up some clear water and I'm drying the brush slightly. It's still damp, but it's brushed. And I'm going to lift up some of that paint. I just dragged that clean brush, I just dragged it across there and it lifts up some of that paint. So there's more of a highlight. So you can see I'm just playing with it here. Now, before it gets too far, I want to add in some of the darker areas. I'm using a burnt umber and some black a little more water. I'm going to start too much water. Too much water, I'll take the back part of the brush and push it onto the sponge. The tips are out here, that's where my paint is. I'm just drying off some of that water. I'm always thinking how this fur is going around his body. And I'm just doing fun little brush strokes, nothing fancy. And you always do better when there's not, you know, people watching you. So this will be fun. I'm going to add a little blue in that. Too much blue, pick up a little more brown. Too much paint, a little more water. This is under his belly where there's a shadow. But you do see how I'm just kind of following some of the texture. And this is just our very first layer. I'm just pulling it in. A little bit around under his nose, under his muzzle. And see how the brush is drying out a little bit, if you can see it. And the hairs are separating just a little bit. That's going to be nice as we're kind of working with the hair. And just nice and loose, follow the shape, curve around down into that. And then go ahead, if you get a chance, and grab the texture brush and little short strokes to kind of just give that little furry effect. And again, this is just the first time over. I'm going to leave it. I want it to dry a little bit, except right here. This is a little too different from everything else. If I want to add some more highlights, paper towel. I can press it where the lighter areas would be. Maybe there, across his chest a little bit more. I can drag it if I want to be more like the fur. Now, paper towels will absorb things quickly. You got to keep moving it around, finding a clean spot on it. Just dab, you can drag, you can do so many things. While it's still a little damp, I'm going to add a little bit more blue in my shadow areas. I just feel like it needs that a little more. Interesting thing about watercolor is as it dries 1/3 lighter than what you see here.
Which blue are you adding?
A little ultramarine blue, the dark ultramarine blue, because that's
Would
great for shadows.
Prussian blue work okay?
Prussian's good. It's a little bit more on the green side, but sure, whatever you have fun with it.
Carrie Lynn, are you expecting them to be following along right now or just watching you?
I wasn't, but that's okay. I'm sure people just can't help. So that's kind of where I am right now. So go ahead and try. I need to switch some water because, again, you get going quickly and you forget which one is supposed to be your clean water and which one's your
Is
dirty.
the blue that you just added on the back of him?
The blue, I just added in kind of the shadow areas. You can't really see it. It just looks like brown here, but it's actually mixed in with that brown.
Okay.
Terry Lynn, this is Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Can you tell us at some point again what colors you mixed together for
Yes.
the? Yeah.
I started out for the light with the yellow ochre, that mustardy color.
Okay.
I moved in that. And then for the darker areas, I used burnt umber, which is the dark brown. And I added a little hint in the dark areas of the ultramarine blue. That's basically all I've done there. Now you see on my painting, so remember the layers, try to think where the light's going to hit, dab to make it lighter areas. The darker areas are where the shadow, like if his light is coming from above his head, then his head's going to cast a little bit of a shadow down onto his body. Now what I'm doing here is I'm very lightly touching the brush to the paper and kind of dragging and lifting, drag and lift, almost like you're brushing somebody's hair. Actually, that's kind of basically what we are doing, right? We're kind of brushing his hair.
How's everyone doing and feeling about this?
Yeah, exactly.
You having fun with it? Doesn't matter if it's perfect, but
Any questions, any thoughts? Again, remember this is like your first time through. Not going to be a masterpiece. Mine certainly isn't. And each time you could do this 20 times and each time it would be different from the others.
well, no one's crying, Terry Lynn, so that's a good sign, I think.
Is it?
I think, but you know, in this case, if they were, you know, the water would just, you know, add to the thing, it'd be all fine.
Now remember we worked from light to dark. So as I'm waiting, I can see I barely touch this. And if it's still cool, that means it's still damp. Also with the watercolor paper, you're probably getting a little buckling because when you add water into the fibers of the paper, it has to go somewhere. It's being absorbed into it. So that the paper is going to kind of somewhat expand with that water in there. It's going to expand a little bit and that causes a buckling. And as it dries, it'll flatten back out again.
Isn't that why some people use that one particular kind that they sell everywhere, but I see it at Cheap Joe's that is called a block, and you paint, you don't take the paper off, you just paint right on it because
that does help. I do have a block here. See, it's a block of paper. It's sealed on the edges. There's a little place to run in a knife afterwards to take it off. But that, yeah, it can do that and then it will flatten back down. If you're using large sheets of full sheet watercolor paper, you put it on a heavy board, you tape it, maybe staple it down because it will expand and then it will shrink again. Good watercolor paper, the high quality stuff, is rag. It is not made from tree fiber. It is made from cotton fiber. So it's a rag paper. So that's, it handles the paint very differently. If I were to paint on this block right here, and this is 100% rag, I believe this is, yeah, see, 100% cotton paper. This paper would take the paint very differently than the paper I'm working on right now. And each one has a very distinct approach. The smoother one I have here, the block I just showed you, this one is a handmade rag paper, takes it very differently. And what a lot of artists will do is every now and then try a different paper to see what you're going to like the most. The one that most many professional watercolor paper, let me talk and not write so I can say this clearly. What many watercolor painters use is Arches, C-H-E-S, Arches papers. Arches. That's a good middle upper quality paper that does well. I think Colleen, you were saying earlier, this paper I have right here, I don't know if I can get the texture on it for you. This side, no, sorry, trying to bend it. This side has a soft texture, a cold press. On the back side, it's quite smooth, more of a hot press.
Yeah, that's how mine is.
Yep. And this paper is rough. See how rough that one is?
Oh, yeah.
That's because when they make this, they put it in the form and they just let it settle by itself, and it leaves a very rough texture. So those are the three basic watercolors. Your very smooth is hot press. It's like pressing it with a hot iron. There's cold press, which has a little bit of texture, the most popular kind. And then there's rough. Who just joined us?
That's
Donna?
Linda. My other computer just turned blank.
Oh, did
So
you?
I'm on an iPad. But I
Okay.
do have a question.
Yes.
The yellow, ochre, and
Burnt
it looks very orange when I do it with, actually, I had cadmium yellow. I didn't have yellow ochre.
Yes, if you look, if you can see my palette up here, let me try to get this again. I have basic colors: lemon yellow, cadmium yellow.
Yep.
Here's my yellow ochre, which is the mustard.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Burnt sienna, my burnt umber. Do you have some yellow ochre in your
I
palette?
have exactly what you have. I just have them laid out.
Okay. A lot of these come with that white that we talked about last week. I take the white out. I use the paper as my white, and because that, my experience, that white tends to go kind of gray and chalky looking on a watercolor painting. So that's why I don't use that. If you can find something else for it. But again, that's my opinion, my experience. How are your little dogs looking? He's still
Wet.
pretty wet, so I want him to dry some.
Linda, I just want to make sure you know that your video is not on. Is that what you want?
She's on her iPad, she said.
I know, but she would still be able to do video if she wants to.
Oh, start video. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's up to you. I just didn't know if you
Here I
were
am.
aware of it.
No, that's fine.
Any
Um,
questions, comments, folks? Are you pretty much at kind of where my little dog is? Or is somebody still working?
I'm still working because
Yeah.
got
Donna
kicked off.
L, how are you doing? You're very patient. I know you work quickly. I think you're on mute.
Well, mine certainly doesn't look like yours, but
Well,
Is
and
mine-
this one doesn't look like that one, but
yeah, mine's kind of a mess, I think. I don't know. I don't think
but it's fun to try.
yes.
What I would like to do next, because I do want to let this guy dry a little bit, is head over to the cat.
Is it are they too wet, Terry Lynn, for anyone to show what they've done if they want to?
Um,
I don't want to wreck anything. I don't want to ruin anything, but
I'll show.
oh,
if
well,
you think you
I
can
guess you
show,
could.
that would be good.
Oh,
Good. Yeah, and that's just your first couple of layers. Very nice, Colleen. I like that. We're going to add some little more texture at the end when he's dry. Very nice. Anyone else have a?
Oh, Georgia. Okay, hold on. Let me get
Oh,
that.
look at you. You guys are moving right along. Uh-oh.
I think I didn't have enough water on my brush because it dried
Okay.
before I got a chance to lift it.
Okay, and a lot depends on your paper. Some papers dry faster than other papers. As the more we paint on them, the more we understand that particular paper that we're working on. Yeah. I'm going to show you something on the cat that might help that next time. Oh, nice. Nice shadow areas, a good variety of color. My only comment on this one is his chest. You have his chest ending, which is perfect. But he's got to have some belly down underneath too. Do you see how his paws, there's like this from his paws to his, do you see that? Just so a little shadow area in there would be really nice.
Maybe he's on a diet.
He's totally lost his belly, but it would have something under there like his back legs and other things. Where are we, Donna? Nice. See, and you've got the form, you've got the shadows. It indicates dog. He's a chunky little guy. He's cute.
He got Gay's belly.
yeah.
Anybody else I didn't catch already that wants to show? Okay.
I love how Pam knows how to just manipulate this whole screen. It's great. All right. I'm going to move on to the kitty. So he dries and we'll come back and finish him in some details if he dries enough. You can see a lot, if you watch some videos, a lot of watercolor paper painters will use hair dryers. You have to be careful with it, but it does help dry it a little bit faster. I don't use a hair dryer basically because I do not own one. I haven't owned a hair dryer for years. All right, the cat. Let's try this a little bit differently this time. You ready for some experimentation? I'm going to kind of show you first, if you would kind of watch, and then you can kind of try it when I get in. I'm going to get a good amount of black paint on my brush and bring it over here, because this is going to be quite a bit. I want to estimate about how much paint I'm going to need. See how I've put it in my palette there in this dark area. Scrape
Can you
some off.
remind Georgia what she needs to do to create her black since she doesn't have any?
Yes, Georgia, you want to use the burnt umber and the ultramarine blue, the two darkest colors you have there, and you can mix them together.
So this one and
Ma'am,
that one.
can I-
This one and that one.
Yeah, what's that in the lower other hand corner?
That's one of the greens.
Oh yeah, don't use the green.
Okay.
Yeah, those
So-
two, we'll try that. And if
Okay.
you need, you could add a little bit of your darkest purpley red there too. But put
Okay.
it, do you have a mixing area?
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Okay. Put some in the mixing area, mix them together, and then if you have a scrap piece, come over and see how it looks on the scrap piece. As it blends out this way and it's lighter, you can see actually what colors is in there. And you can decide, do I need to add more brown into it or more blue? Does that make sense? Okay. I don't like pure black usually anyway, so I'll often add a little blue, little brown, kind of mix it in together. All right, so my brush, my paint is pretty much ready. Important thing for this guy is I do not want to get his eyes wet now. If I get his eyes wet, we're going to lose, this is the unfinished one, but we're going to lose that sparkle in his eyes. So I want to show you how I'm going to handle that. I'm going to pick up my water spray bottle. I'm going to cover his eyes with my 2 fingers, press down pretty well. And I want to try to concentrate the spray within the cat area. But some of it's going to go out into the background too. So here I am covering his eyes. Check my spray bottle off to the side so I see how it's doing. See how I'm kind of spraying? You can't really see it, but I'm kind of trying to keep that toward. If tilt down on the paper, I see a huge amount of water right there. So I'm going to control that with my paper towel a bit. And otherwise, the spray bottle's beginning to die on me. And I can see that water got down into the eyes. I don't know how that happened. So I'm going to make a point as tight as I can with my paper towel and try to dry that a bit. So I know I'm going to have to keep track of that. This is a smaller painting. If I'd done it larger, I wouldn't have so much trouble. Now I go and pick up some of that paint and I am going to just start dropping it in around inside his body area. And look, because we did that spray bottle thing, we're getting this really cool kind of texture, like fur texture going out from his body.
I think even I might be competent enough to do this technique.
Well, it's not super precise, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's what makes it going. Now I want to keep a little bit, where's that other one? Remember, I wanted to kind of stay away if I want a little pink in that eye. So I'm going to kind of go, in the ear, I'm going to leave a little area of that ear so I can add that pink in later. And here I'm coming down around his eyes. And the fur is going to happen because of where I sprayed it with the water. And I just want to be sure not too much gets into his eyes. I want to leave a little idea of a nose highlight. And otherwise, Just let it flow in there. These black cats, they all blend together. So see, just really quick and simple. I'm going to add a little more darkness because I want it darker down in here. And just kind of try that. Have some fun with it. Any questions before you head into it?
I do. It's Colleen again.
Yes, Colleen.
I thought for sure I had black, but when I went ahead and dabbed it, it was dark blue. So I'm going to ask you for the third time, to repeat for the third time how you make that.
It's the burnt umber, your darkest brown and that blue. And try mixing them together.
All right.
And if some areas are a little more blue and some areas are a little more brown, that's not a problem.
All right. I have raw umber. That's not the dark.
No, raw umber is more a mud color, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll look around here. I've got 4 boxes of paints. I ought to have.
Well,
it.
maybe he's not a black cat, Colleen, you know? Maybe yours just is not a black cat.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Georgia, is your black working out okay? Or you're sort of black? Good.
Now, sometimes you can even spray a little bit after you've done some painting. I want this down here, the paw area, to kind of blend. It's a little dry. I'm covering what's above it, so just as the base is going to show, I don't want too much more water anywhere else. I quickly just lightly spray some water down in there. And it just kind of plays around by itself. Watercolor is, again, a partnership. It's kind of fun if you don't totally control it. It's more fun that way.
Hello?
Hello? Someone?
No, I think Colleen got her phone call, maybe for the vaccination.
Oh, nice. I'm still on a waiting list, that's for sure. I haven't heard anything.
Well, at least you get to get on the waiting list. I think it will be a long time before I get there.
There's only one reason why I'm on that waiting list, Pam.
Well, you know, that's one.
Something finally benefits me, right?
Exactly. I was gonna say it's one positive thing, right?
You get old enough and you can get on the list.
That's right. That's right.
I'm supposed to get a shingle shot too, and I'm putting it off until after I'm done, like these 4 weeks of teaching. because
Yeah, I don't blame
first
you.
reaction. I don't want it to affect the class.
Don't blame you. So I have a question. I'm going to anticipate a question that people might have just because it's their first try at this. What happens if they accidentally did get black into those eyes of the kitty?
There are some tricks, and a lot of this depends on your paper. Some papers you can take an X-Acto knife and lightly scrape out, but that affects the surface of the paper. My easiest answer to that is, I'll be right back.
I'm not saying any of you guys, this is going to happen to you, but I know if I was doing it, I would get black into those eyes. So I need to know how to fix my boo-boo.
I have all sorts of extra fun tools for watercolor. But if you lose the white, I recommend, you can use that white that's in the palette, but as I said, it's going to get a little chalky. I use acrylic titanium white. Let me come up here.
Okay.
This is, it's going to be a nice clean white. You can actually mix it with one of your colors to get like a very light yellow or green or something. If you do use the acrylic, if you remember what I mentioned about the brushes before, use a brush that is not strictly a watercolor brush and wash it out immediately. Acrylic paint is plastic based. And if it dries in your brush, it basically ruins your brush. So you don't want to use one of your good watercolor brushes if you're going to use the acrylic. I always have extra brushes for that.
Yeah, God
But
forbid
that
we,
will bring back a nice sparkle of white.
I say, God forbid we ruin those $6 for a pack of 3 brushes, right?
Yeah, that's what you say that for. Exactly. Or over the years, you start collecting so many brushes. I have, and I don't, let me see, where's my good palette? I'm just chit chatting while people are painting. If somebody has
Yes.
a question or anything. Okay, this one, I think it's this one. I mean, I do like this, as I told you, this same brush. You can see I have a couple of these. But this brush right here is one of the brushes I have had. It's a watercolor brush I've had since college.
Huh.
This is a quality brush. So I've had it, well, a few decades, we'll just say that. Yeah, I probably bought this back in the 70s and it's still good. So when you get a good, sometimes it's worth getting a high quality brush because it's going to last you forever with watercolor.
Good to know.
Yeah. I have this one as well. This is probably the most expensive brush I have. And back 30 years ago, this one cost me $40. So I can't imagine what it would cost today. But this is squirrel hair. And it's just, it's not totally wet, but that's
what it's made out of, squirrel hair?
yeah. Some of your really, really good brushes back then were animal hair. Now they make beautiful synthetic brushes as well.
So you know that roadkill that we always see on the road? Don't throw it away. Okay, how's everybody doing?
Oh God, Pam.
You guys have your cats? Anybody have their cats or cats questions?
I'm gonna now see how I'm taking paper towel and I'm crunching it up so it's an irregular texture. And I just want to blot him as he's drying in a couple places where there might be highlights. Maybe there's a little bit of a highlight right there. And then see how it's picking that up. Now I have to find clean and do it a little bit on his back. And it adds some texture into your painting as well. You can see here mine bled, we call it bleeding as it goes out. It bled quite a bit right there, but that's okay. I want the feeling of cat. Oh, I do have one picture I want to show. Everyone's still painting? I don't want to rush you. I'll keep chit-chatting while you are painting. Here's my...
I'm still amazed. I mean, it really looks like a cat, and you really didn't do a whole lot to get that paint on there.
Right? You know what, Pam? I'll tell you what. We make a recording of this, and you can try it on your own time.
I have watercolor paints at the studio, I think. Someone donated some, I think.
Nice. While this is still a little wet up in here, it's not super wet, but it's still kind of damp. I can see a little bit of a sheen in there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my pinky red or alizarin crimson, and I'm just going to drop in a little bit of that right up in his ears. So you know how cat's ears, that thin skin, it kind of pokes through. And that looks a little bright right now, but as it dries, it's going to get lighter. And you saw that. It was just, I just kind of touched a little bit of that pink into that. Oh, I was going to look for a photo that I had. Any questions, please? Anyone just speak up? Uh-oh, I just did something. All right, there it is. Oh, you know what? It's on my phone. I don't even have it. I'll show it next week.
Pam, I have to tell you, you just saved my life.
Why is that? Oh, was
Because-
that your vaccination call?
It certainly was.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah. And I was so worried about my phone. I was like, I couldn't even pay attention to the first little part of this class here because I kept thinking, where is my phone? And what if they call me?
I know, because you can't miss it or they'll put you at the bottom.
Yeah, and so I go on the 17th. I was just for anybody else's knowledge of numbers, I was number 6,700 and something, and I'm scheduled for the 17th of February.
All right. Woohoo! Yay! Congratulations. And I hope you don't mind. I had muted you because I didn't want to you to have to feel like we were eavesdropping on your conversation.
No, I left the room, but then I came back real quick to see if I was muted, and I was. So thank you for doing it.
You're very welcome. Okay, well, Donna looks like she's done. Georgia looks like she's done. I can't tell with Miss Gay if she's done.
I'm done enough.
Done enough. And Linda, are you done sort of?
Now, if they're too wet, don't pick them up. They'll dribble down forever.
Yeah, I don't want you to wreck it by picking up.
But if you
and
think
Colin,
it's
you'll
dry
just-
enough to hold up,
Yeah. Oh, Donna looks like hers is. Okay, let's.
oh,
Oh,
cute.
yeah.
Oh, look at that. Nice.
Very sweet. You could almost go out and pet it there, Miss Donna.
Yep. Oh, Gay, that is nice too.
Oh, wait a minute. I gotta catch Miss Gay. Hold on. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You guys didn't even need the question I had about what if you get it in their eyes. You guys did a wonderful
You did
job.
a really great job.
Anyone else want to risk it? Oh, George is
George
taking
is
the
going down
low.
this way. Oh, that is. Oh, I love it.
That's so
And
cute.
look now, can you go back? I'm sorry, Georgia. Everyone else, look, she doesn't have black. She used the burnt umber and the ultramarine blue. You have a real puddle there, George. You might want to gently blot at some point.
Okay,
And
and
I-
it turned out like a really like gray-y green. So I did go over with my tube paint with black over it.
You did do some black over it.
Ah.
Okay.
And I did masking tape over the eyes because I didn't think I was neat enough to
I was
do
going to
my
say, let's
fingers.
put some color on the eyes. That's a great point. People, you can use masking tape as a mask. Then once it's dry, wait for it to be totally dry before you take that tape off. And then you have a clean spot to work on it. Yes. Oh, it is kind of green. Oh, because of the blue you used?
Yeah, I think so. This, and then I added more brown and that touch of red, and that's
Yeah.
the color I ended up with.
That's nice. I like that one. But you're right. Before that, it looked rather greenish. Anyone else? Before we head in?
Anyone else want to? Oh, here, Miss Linda's gonna let us. She's gonna share with us. Woohoo.
Mine
Let's
got
take a peek.
squashed, my kitty.
Oh,
Oh, he's just a
Aw.
little kitten.
he
That's
looks
a
like he does.
kitten.
He looks like a kitten.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
That's
He
so
does.
cute. So
So
cute.
You guys are doing great with leaving the eyes up there too.
Did we
All
got
right.
anyone? I think we got everybody. And Colleen's still working because she wasn't there, but
I'm going to head back over to the puppy now. So I'm finding this brush is working quite well for the price. 3 brushes. If you weren't here before, these 3 brushes on Amazon for, what was it, $6.70 or something like that. Very reasonable. I've been playing with this one, so I'm gonna try the slightly bigger one right now.
leave it to the cheapskate, me, to come up with a good bargain. Although I don't think I found those. I don't know who found those.
I may have found them all way back. I don't know.
You might have, yeah.
I want to add a little more hair and texture into the puppy now. Now, here's a cool thing to do. When your brush is fairly dry, you can just kind of squeeze it out and look at that. This texture here is going to do a little bit different than this texture. So I'm going to kind of use this. First of all, I got to get some paint because I don't have paint ready. So I'm going to go pick up some paint into my mixing area so it's available to me. Part of the reason we use this besides mixing colors is also if you use, like if I went from black and then went into this yellow, it would totally mess up the yellow. So this is a good way. Clean the brush off before you go into another color. I want to get a little more of that burnt umber brown here. Maybe a touch of black in there too. So now I have some colors prepared that I can use. I'm going to dry the brush a little bit. See, I'm not pressing down on the tip of the brush. I'm not pressing it this way. I'm pressing this way to dry the brush on my sponge. Okay. I got to remember to look at the screen so it makes sense. Yeah, let's see, time, yes. I'm gonna do this quickly. It's not gonna be super perfect. I'm gonna splay those hairs a little bit, nice irregular. I'm gonna pick up some of that yellow, and I'm gonna put some fur kind of in the areas. If you look at the picture here, think about where that fur is gonna be falling from. So look at it, it comes up from his nose. See how those lines kind of come up that way? Gonna kind of come up, out over his eyes, pick up a little more. Off his ears, a little more paint. Just let it kind of fluff out there. He's a nice shaggy little dog. I love the little shaggy.
What color are you using again with
I
that?
am using the yellow ochre, the mustard color right now. Just kind of bringing it down those lighter areas, a little off his paws, his back haunches. You can tell when the paint runs out, 3 to 4 or 5 strokes at the most, and you're going to need to go back and get some more paint.
Carrie Lynn, is floofing a technical paint?
That is, floof is a definite artistic.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Thank you for pointing that out. Now I'm going to do the same thing with what we call the dry brush. I mean, it's not dry, it's damp, but it's not super wet. And I'm going to pick up some darker areas. And now I'm just going to concentrate on some darker fur in the darker areas. By doing the darker areas, this is kind of where, I mean, yes, it's partly his color, but it's also shadows. A little furry down there. What kind of pup? Is this a Yorkie? Does anyone know? I can't remember what kind of pup.
I think it does look Yorkie-like. Oh, what did you say, Georgia?
I agree. I think that looks like a Yorkie.
Yeah, okay. I used to know my breeds so well. My parents, before they started raising kids, raised American Cocker Spaniels and showed them. So there, he's kind of furry. Make it fun.
I bet the dogs obeyed better than the kids.
Oh yeah, I had 2 brothers. I was the good kid. You know why? Because I they'd get into so much trouble. I just wanted to create less drama for my parents. You can do the same thing, and it's going to look a little different with this brush. You can pick up some paint and then bring that down into certain areas. So we're getting some fur, right? Just kind of fun. If you're painting on that, you can also add in, this table is so small. When you're painting low, it's nice to have a larger table so that you can, but I have to stay inside my camera angle here. And I was just going to point something out and I forgot what it was. Oh, the poor little, he needs to be sitting down on something. So even though his paws, I have his paws kind of light, I'm going to put some dark under it irregularly, just little, again, maybe some of that dry brush stuff, and kind of come up into his paw, because there's going to be a shadow under him. So I kind of go up into the fur. I'm just kind of dragging that up into the fur, and then I can kind of make this into a shadow under him as he's sitting on the ground there. Get some nice clean water. You're going to watch this later. I know you're painting, but I'm just cleaning my brush again. Got some nice clean water. This is just clear water here. I'm going to soften the edge of that shadow by just bringing water there, and then some of that paint will wash down into it. Track of the time. All right, Kitty, we're not going to be able to finish because of, it's still pretty wet. So what I did with the one that I started last week is, remember at the beginning of class today, I put some yellow on his eyes. I test it it's dry. It's not cool at all to the touch, so I know it's dry. I'm going to get my smallest detail brush that I have. I'm going to pick up some pretty solid black or something very dark, because now I'm going to go into his pupils and look at your picture and draw in the pupils. I just messed up. My brush got stuck. All right. I don't know what just happened. So what I'm doing right now is with clear water, because I made a mistake, I am wetting that black area that I accidentally dropped in, and I'm just blotting it and trying to lift up that black. Now I know I can't go back in there with, that's still fairly wet, so I'm going to do an example on the other pupil. At this point, I want this quite dry. I don't want too much water on my brush. I want to keep it pretty dry, and just look at the tips of the brushes, bring it down in, nice and clear.
We know you did that, boo-boo, intentionally so that people know that even a pro sometimes makes a boo-boo.
You can, and you can fix it. See, that's the nice thing. You know you can fix it.
That's important.
That is important. I'm going to add a little more dark in here. And then when he's dry as well, so you can finish this later, is you can pick up a little bit again with your finest, and you want to work right on the tippy tip of this. And when you touch your paper, you just, wait, okay. My finger is the paper. I just want to barely touch at the very, just a couple of hairs on there to get as much. If you press it down, you're going to get a wider line. So we want to keep this on its tips. And even though he already has whiskers, I'm going to add some whiskers. So if you notice, I just tilted my paper because the hand naturally works on this fulcrum this way. If you try to do a curve like this, it's not natural. But by allowing this curve to act naturally, you can get a nice curve. So since this whisker is coming down this way, this is not a natural move for my hand. I will turn my paper, or I will move so that I can employ that natural curve of my hand. Does that make sense? See how that kind of nicely goes like that. So then I just very lightly, just on the tip, and if it skips a little bit, that's okay. That's how it's catching the light. And then for this side, I'm coming over this way, a little more. And if you're uncomfortable with this, go to your scrap paper first. Go over to your scrap paper. Try that curve. My computer just did something weird. That was weird. Isn't it fascinating, all these weird things that our computers will do to us? There, so that's just kind of him.
So this is
He
good.
looks a little scary. Doesn't he look scary? You know why? Because it's dark above his eyes. Yes.
What color did you do the eyes? Have you? No, you have. What color are the
Not
eyes?
on the one I just painted. This is the one I did the other day.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
he's dry. And I
Yeah.
would, for eyes, depends on the cat's eyes. It can be like a lemon yellow or a lemon yellow with a little green in it. I did that one. This one I did lemon yellow on the lighter side. I added in some of that darker cadmium yellow over on this side. Notice on this one, I put a little yellow up into the ear just for fun. Look at the difference in these two. She's a sweet little kitty. This one, I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of out of proportion and stuff, but
That one's a badass kitty.
he definitely is. I wonder if I could soften that. I don't know how that gets so. I'm always trying to think of the shape, the form of the body. I'm going down the nose, even though it's just a flat piece of paper. I still want to keep that form going. I think his eye is a little too bright over here. There, even a little less contrast in the eyes will make him seem a little more gentle. He's a little scary. His eyes are too small for his head nut, but that's okay. I mean, you can see I have done, the last one's not finished, but I've done 3 kitties basically from the same thing, and each one, even though I'm doing them, looks different. I think this is the one I started really quickly last week. This one was a little more focused because I wasn't teaching, I could focus on it. This one's going to be interesting. See how he turns out. Oh, 318.
Yes.
Well,
Mr.
at it?
Davis.
Yep. I'm just going to kind of finish up the dog. If you look at him, his eyes are almost black. I'm going to try to leave a little sparkle of white in there if I can. His nose is dark on this side and a little lighter on the top. So I'm going to try, I'm heading into the black, fairly dry brush. I'm down on my knees because I'm getting closer to my work. And I'm just doing little touches of the brush as I go along, because it's better to do a little bit and add more later, because with watercolor, it gets very difficult to undo something.
Should the dot be central since he's probably looking straight at you?
Well, it's not his pupil. The dot is a reflection of light off to the side. So if you think of the eye,
Oh,
where
okay.
am I down? Where am I? Sorry. If you think of the eye, it's a sphere, right? So it's going to be kind of catching a curve of light off to the side a little bit.
You're right.
And that's done with a mostly dry brush, Terry Lynn?
It's quite dry. This is quite a dry brush, and just paint. And go ahead and let it go a little into the fur, because the fur will be casting a little bit of shadow. So if it's not a perfect round eye, that's okay.
And there's probably some fur over the nose too, huh?
Yep. So a little irregularity. I mean, you don't have to paint it perfectly because it's got all this fur going on.
It's so cute. You're bringing them alive.
Isn't that? See, the last touches of what's doing it. It's the eyes. Now his mouth is a little dark, so I'm cleaning my brush, damp brush, and I'm going to lift a little bit like we did before. Soften that mouth area, because where I really want the focus is up in his eyes. So see how I wet that, I'm drying it off, picking up some more, softening that a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of cute. Spray out that brush again. I want a little more shadows over here.
And now you're kind of just using remnants of the black.
Yep. It's getting a little dry. I probably need a little bit more black, brownish black, something dark. I'm just aiming for dark right now. Not too dark, kind of medium dark. Splaying out the bristles of my brush. I just want to add a little more shadow in here.
You know, to try to show just what you just did, to try to show that the chin and whiskers are coming out toward you and the chest is back. That's what you're working on right now, huh?
It's just by adding shadow, it's casting a shadow, right? It's just separating that a little bit. Does that work pretty well?
Yeah.
Down in here, down in here. I mean, look, we're barely doing anything. We're kind of making sure that hairs are splayed a little bit on the brush. You can do it with a bigger brush too, not hard. I'm going to soften one of his eyes. His eyes are both very, very bright. I'm going to soften one. Might soften both.
Ladies, if you have any questions, now would be a good time to ask. There's about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure you guys get your questions answered. And I don't know, Terry Lynn, as you're softening the eye, if you want to mention what's in store for next week, or if there's anything between now and then.
Perfect. What I'd like next week, I mean, I've got some more photographs, but I think it's time for you to start working on your pets. If you would, I showed you about the Padlet. If you can load something into Padlet, that would be good. We will resend you the link to that. Don't worry about placement on Padlet unless you want to play around with it, but I can move things around and get them in the right spot. Do put your name on it because it'll come up as anonymous. And if I don't know who put it up, I just need you, when it says title and it happens automatically, just put your name in it. Also, if you could put up, send me somehow a picture of what you want to be painting, because that's going to help me help you. A couple pictures of your pets or something like that. And let's not expect the first one to be perfect, right? We're going to probably do these a couple of times.
Terry Lynn, if for whatever reason Padlet is not happening for you, we don't want you to get frustrated. Please do not get frustrated. You can always you can email Terry Lynn your thing. She'll get it up there for you.
Yeah.
For some people, it's a piece of cake and actually enjoyable. It was fun for me to play with Padlet, but I also know, like someone like my mother, it could bring her to tears. So, and there's no judgment here. I just don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable if you
don't either. You can always email me anything or send it to Pam or me and we can get it up there. I'll tell you though, this weekend we worked, and I didn't want to this is a shorter time period. The weekend workshop was longer and I had, a good half hour to make sure everyone could get on there, but I don't want to frustrate anybody at all. That's not my intent at all. So any questions? Do you want to unmute? Any thoughts? Can I see what you've done so far? If it's dry enough. We have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
Colleen.
Oh, Colleen, he's so cute. You just haven't done his eyes yet. That's great. Oh, Gay. Look at that. So sweet. You like him?
He looks cross-eyed to me.
A little bit. Maybe again, you can leave a little less. Let me look. A little less highlight on one side, maybe, and you can decide which side. I think his eyes are a little close together.
I think so too. I agree.
That's kind of a person eye distance apart. I mean, but a person's eye is about one eye distance apart. Animals tend to be spread out more. They're more on the side of their faces. All right. Very nice. That's your first. I like it. Georgia. Oh, he's so sad. I love him. He's so cute. He's just on the, from my point of view, the right side of his face, kind of just connect that a little bit down into what's happening on his down to his shoulder.
Yeah, it does looks floating. Yeah, I see that now.
He's cute.
And I think my brush was not rough enough, so this looks too rounded.
Not dry enough. And that's because, a little too wet and not rough and dry enough. And you learn that the more you practice. Go ahead and get a piece of scrap paper or on the back of a sheet that didn't come out well and use that to practice different things and just play with it. Play, try different things, experiment. Anyone else? Donna. Oh, cute. He's cute. He's chunky. But he's got a cute face. And you lost the tilt a little bit, but that's okay.
It shows that the drawing helps.
Yes.
underlying drawing.
And a lot of people, I mean, there is a lot to drawing, but you can keep it simple like we did, those circles and the triangles and things, and that gives you enough to actually get something going.
Now it almost looks like he's wearing sort of like it looks like he's wearing something, like a little,
Cloak.
Those yak
like a little cloak, yes. It's cute. Anyone else while I'm,
turn it into that personality too. It's like, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see, who didn't we see?
You could say if you made a mistake, you turn it into something that you weren't expecting, and why
That's
not?
right. Yep.
That's right. I think Miss Linda's the only one we haven't seen. Linda, do you want to share or no? I think she's muted.
I think she's
Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. Okay, we've got about 1 minute left. So any,
Can we go in gallery? Yep.
yeah,
That's my control. Okay.
anyone have any other parting comments, questions, thoughts, things
Do you
that I
feel comfortable with starting on your own pet next week? Sound good?
Yes.
Maybe if you have a chance, no push, no homework, but do try to figure out for that pet, what are the basic shapes and what are the proportions? Just the size. A lot of your heads are a little bit small for the body, so double check that kind of. And if you have to, I mean, don't go crazy with it, but get out a ruler just to get, a rough idea.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Go enjoy the nice weather outside, and we will
Nice
see
out.
you next week. All right,
Thank
bye,
you.
ladies.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you.